Cursed Banyan, in the remote village of Kaalpur, nestled deep within the forests of India. The banyan tree stood like an ominous sentinel, its massive roots clawing at the earth, its branches twisted into grotesque shapes. Locals called it the Rakshak Vriksha, the protector tree, though no one dared speak of what it truly protected. For generations, the tree was believed to house a chudel, a vengeful spirit. Legends whispered that any who disturbed its sanctity would invite death upon themselves. Offerings of rice, milk, and turmeric were left at its base, yet no one lingered near it after sundown. One evening, Gopal, a poor farmer, ignored the warnings. Desperation gnawed at him. His family was starving, and he needed wood to sell at the market. Armed with an axe, he approached the banyan tree. The forest seemed unnaturally still. The chirping of birds silenced, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth. He swung his axe at one of the tree's lower branches. It fell with a dull thud. As he walked away with the wood, he felt as though unseen eyes followed him. That night, Gopal's wife, Parvati, awoke to the sound of wailing outside their hut. She peered through the window but saw only the darkness of the forest. By morning, Gopal's mutilated body was found hanging from the very branch he had cut. His face was frozen in a rictus of terror, his eyes gouged out. Parvati's screams echoed through the village. By nightfall, she too was found, her body swinging lifelessly from the same branch. The tragedy stirred fear in the hearts of the villagers, but their horror turned to anger when government officials arrived days later. They came with bulldozers and workers, tasked with clearing land for a new highway. The banyan tree stood directly in their path. Despite the villagers' protests and tales of the chudel, the officials dismissed their warnings as backward superstition. "It's just a tree," declared Singh, the project manager, as he surveyed the site. "We'll cut it down and be done with this nonsense." The workers began their task at dawn. The first strike of an axe against the banyan's trunk was met with an eerie groan that seemed to echo through the forest. As the axe bit deeper, a thick, dark liquid seeped from the wound in the tree. It reeked of rot and decay. The workers recoiled, but Singh ordered them to continue. By nightfall, strange occurrences began. Livestock were found slaughtered, their entrails scattered near the tree. A dense fog descended upon the village, so thick it was impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Children began disappearing, lured into the forest by the sound of a woman's mournful singing. An elderly villager, Amma, finally broke her silence. Sitting by the flickering light of a lamp, she told the tale of Chandrika. A century ago, Chandrika had been a healer in Kaalpur. Her beauty and knowledge of herbs earned her both admiration and envy. When the village elders began trafficking young girls to a nearby city, Chandrika tried to expose them. They accused her of witchcraft to silence her. She was dragged to the banyan tree, where they hung her and set her body ablaze. With her dying breath, Chandrika cursed the village, vowing to return and exact her revenge. The villagers began to change. One woman, claiming to see Chandrika's face in her dreams, gouged out her eyes with her bare hands. Another villager was found wandering the forest, chanting in an unknown tongue. He disappeared into the mist, never to return. The banyan tree's roots seemed to writhe, growing longer and reaching toward the village, as if it were alive. Amma revealed the truth to Mira, a young journalist who had come to document the highway project. Mira, an orphan raised in the city, discovered that Chandrika was her ancestor. The curse was tied not just to the village, but to the bloodline of those who betrayed her. Chandrika's wrath spared no one outsiders, and descendants alike were caught in its grip. In desperation, the village priest organized a purification ritual. Villagers gathered at the tree, chanting prayers and burning incense. But as the ritual reached its climax, the possessed villagers turned on one another. The fog thickened, and the priest's cries were silenced as his body was impaled on the tree's roots. The chudel emerged in full form that night. Her twisted limbs moved unnaturally. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and her face was veiled in a shroud of black hair. The villagers fled, but the chudel pursued them relentlessly. Singh and the other officials were among the first to die, their screams echoing through the forest. Mira, armed with the knowledge of her lineage, confronted Chandrika beneath the tree. Trembling, she offered herself to the spirit, begging for the curse to end. Chandrika paused, her ghastly visage softening as she recognized Mira. With a voice that was both a whisper and a roar, she spoke. The sins of the past cannot be erased, but the suffering can end. Chandrika vanished into the tree, leaving Mira alive but forever haunted by the memories. The banyan tree remained, its roots now eerily still. The villagers abandoned Kaalpur, leaving it to the forest. Stories of the cursed banyan tree spread to nearby towns, a tale to frighten children and deter trespassers. Mira, scarred but determined, vowed to uncover the truths hidden in India's forgotten villages, hoping to prevent other injustices. The banyan stood alone, a silent witness to the darkness of human deeds and the vengeance of the spirits they create.